This gala is being held to help poor people like you. That does not mean they are allowed to walk in and eat with us." Victoria Langford looked down at Caleb Bennett's mud-covered boots and gave a cold laugh. Several nearby guests turned to look, but none of them knew that the woman had just made a mistake that could cost the entire hotel dearly. Rain slashed sideways against the toned glass windows of the Langford Grand, turning the city of Dallas into a gray curtain of water. Caleb stood motionless on the marble steps in an old work coat soaked dark by the rain. 2 hours earlier, his truck had broken down on the road leading from his ranch into the city. Unable to find a ride, he had walked nearly 2 miles through the storm. His phone was dead, the invitation in his pocket was soaked and smeared, and thick red mud clung to the cuffs of his pants. Behind Victoria, the grand ballroom glowed beneath crystal chandeliers. Servers carried champagne between guests dressed in expensive formal wear. On the stage was the image of a line of hills outlined in gold. Beneath it were the words, Rural Hope Foundation. Caleb pulled the wrinkled invitation from his pocket. "My name is on the list." Victoria barely glanced at the wet paper. "The name is smeared, and this embossed symbol could be copied by any print shop. You can verify it in the system. I do not need a front desk employee teaching me how to identify VIP guests." Caleb studied her face. He did not get angry. He did not beg. His eyes simply lingered a moment longer on the name badge identifying her as Director of Events and VIP Relations. A man in a tuxedo standing near the entrance laughed. Maybe he heard there was a free dinner. A few quiet laughs spread through the crowd. Victoria did nothing to stop them. She raised 2 fingers toward the security team, as though calling someone over to remove an object that had become an inconvenience. "Mateo, get him outside before the press arrives." Mateo Ruiz, the hotel's head of security, approached but did not touch Caleb. He looked at Caleb's rain-soaked shoulders, then at the invitation with the embossed seal. "Sir, so you have identification?" "Yes. But before you remove me, enter the name Caleb Bennett into the original guest list." Victoria cut him off. "The original list is under my control. That name is not on it." At the far end of the hallway, the wheels of a housekeeping cart suddenly stopped. Emily Carter, a temporary cleaning employee, stood holding a stack of white towels against her chest. She had heard enough to understand what was happening. Her eyes moved from the wet invitation to the symbol displayed on the stage. "Mrs. Langford," Emily said carefully. "The seal on that invitation looks like the Bennett Rich emblem. Printed copies usually do not have that break in the line on the left side of the hill." Victoria spun toward her. "You are paid to clean floors, not authenticate guests." Emily tightened her grip on the towels. "I only think we should check before throwing someone out. And I think you should remember that you are a temporary employee." The air around the main entrance went quiet. Emily understood exactly what the warning meant. Her shifts at the Langford Grand were the only income she still had after missing work to take her daughter to dialysis treatments. One negative report from Victoria could be enough for the staffing agency to stop calling her. Caleb spoke quietly. "You do not have to get involved." Emily took a clean towel and stepped forward to hand it to him. "You are shaking." "I am fine." "Then dry your face before they use the fact that you are wet as another excuse to look down on you." Several guests stared at her with irritation. The man who had mocked Caleb used the toe of his shoe to push a bucket beside the cleaning cart. Dirty water spilled across the floor and ran toward Caleb's muddy boots. "Clean that up," the man said. "Do not let this mess show up in our photographs." Emily immediately moved the cart in front of Caleb, stopping it from rolling down the steps. Dirty water splashed onto the legs of her uniform. She lifted her head. Her voice was not loud, but it carried clearly through the lobby. "He may be poor, but that does not give anyone the right to turn him into a joke." The smiles disappeared from the guests' faces. Victoria stepped closer to Emily. "You just insulted one of our donors." "No. I asked him not to insult another human being." "Do you want to lose your job?" Emily looked through the glass, where rain was still pouring into the dark courtyard. In her mind, she saw Sophie's pale face beside the dialysis machine and the clinic bill that had to be paid within 10 days. Fear made her fingers turn cold. Then she remembered a question her daughter had once asked after other children mocked her for wearing old clothes. "Mom, if adults see something wrong and stay silent, where are children supposed to learn what is right?" Emily turned back toward Victoria. "Silence is a choice too. I do not want my daughter learning that choice from me." Caleb watched her for a long moment. Something shifted in the eyes of a man who had survived drought, debt, and winters that had taken nearly everything from him. Victoria signaled to Mateo. "Take both of them to the service hallway. I will deal with Miss Carter afterward." Mateo still did not use force. He picked up the invitation, examined the embossed seal carefully, then said, I will take Mr. Bennett to the waiting area and verify his identity. If the invitation is not valid, he will leave. Victoria clenched her jaw but did not argue in front of the guests. Inside the service hallway, cold fluorescent lights replaced the crystal chandeliers. Emily took a bottle of water and a small loaf of bread from the employee cabinet and placed them in Caleb's hands. The kitchen will throw this away after the shift. Eat it. What about you? I already ate. Her stomach growled softly, betraying the lie. Caleb did not embarrass her by pointing it out. He broke the loaf in half and placed one portion back on the cart. Someone who works all day should not lie about whether she has eaten. Emily gave him a faint smile. It was the first smile she had shown since her shift began. Caleb reached into his coat pocket and removed a bronze coin. A line of hills was engraved on one side, along with the words Bennett Rich. He placed it beside the bottle of water. Consider it a thank you. Emily pushed the coin back toward him. It did not help you because I wanted to be paid. This is not money. It is only a keepsake. She picked it up and examined the symbol. A small scratch ran across the center hill, matching the same break in the design on the invitation. Before Emily could ask about it, applause erupted from the ballroom. Through the partially open door, they heard the Master of Ceremonies introduce Marcus Hale, Executive Director of the Rural Hope Foundation, the man who brought this mission to thousands of families. Caleb moved closer to the opening. Marcus stepped onto the stage in a dark blue suit, accepting handshakes and praise. One major donor called him the founder of the foundation. Marcus only smiled. He did not correct the statement. Caleb looked down at the event program resting on a service card. The seat reserved for the foundation's founder listed the name Marcus Hale. Caleb Bennett's name did not appear anywhere. You know him? Emily asked. Long enough to recognize when he lets other people believe a lie. An employee called Emily back toward the office area because Victoria wanted fresh towels in the preparation room. Caleb intended to take another route, but as they passed a partially closed door, both of them heard Marcus speaking inside. The final list needs to be cleaned before the boss sees it. Victoria replied. What about the Carter file? She is still working here. Mark her as ineligible. Someone else already received that money. Emily froze. The stack of towels slipped from her hands and fell to the floor. Inside the room, papers rustled. Then everything went silent. Marcus opened the door. His eyes stopped on Emily, then shifted toward Caleb. How much did you hear? Emily bent down to pick up the towels. I only came to replace the supplies. Marcus stepped into the hallway and closed the door behind him. Your daughter's name is Sophie, correct? Emily's face turned pale. Do not talk about her. Then learn when to stay quiet. Assistance applications can be reconsidered when a family's attitude meets the foundation's standards. You just said my daughter's money was given to someone else. Marcus gave a faint smile. I said you should get back to work. Caleb stepped forward. The change in his posture was almost impossible to notice, but it was enough to make Marcus move half a step backward. Threatening a mother does not make a fire disappear. Marcus looked at Caleb's dirty clothes and laughed. And who are you? Her lawyer? Caleb did not answer. He looked at Emily. The fear in her eyes told him that if he revealed everything now, Marcus and Victoria might erase whatever remained before Olivia or the auditors could reach it. But if he continued staying silent, Emily would face even more danger because of a system carrying his name. Hair has nothing to do with this, Emily said, trying to protect Caleb. Let him go. Marcus turned back toward the office. Victoria, disable Miss Carter's access after this shift. The door closed. Emily leaned against the housekeeping cart. She explained that Sophie was 8 years old, had been born with kidney disease, and had applied for the foundation's long-term treatment program. The foundation had first sent a letter confirming that the application had been received. A few weeks later, another notice said her family was not considered a priority. I thought we simply did not qualify, Emily said. Maybe I was wrong. Caleb looked toward the end of the hallway. So you remember where the old files are stored? The old archive room? But that door has been locked for years. Only senior management is allowed inside. They stopped in front of a dark wooden door behind the conference area. A faded image of the Lie of Hills was carved into the lock plate. Caleb reached beneath his collar and pulled out an old bronze key. High letters were engraved into the metal. Bearer. Emily stared at him. Where did you get that? My father left it to me. The key turned on. The door opened with a heavy creak. The smell of old paper and wood dust filled the air. Caleb walked directly toward the row of cabinets on the eastern wall, as though he already knew exactly how the room was arranged. On the third shelf sat a firebox labeled Rural Medical Program. Emily's hands trembled as she searched through the folders. When the name Sophie Carter appeared, she almost stopped breathing. Inside was not a rejection letter. The medical review board had confirmed that Sophie qualified. Her treatment assistance had also been approved months earlier. At the bottom of the page was a clear signature, Caleb Bennett. Emily slowly looked up at the man in the old work coat standing in front of her. "You do not just know this foundation," she whispered. "Who are you? Who are you?" Emily asked again, her eyes still fixed on the signature beneath Sophie's file. Caleb closed the folder, but did not remove it from the room. "I am the person who approved this application." "In what capacity?" The sound of radios and security footsteps echoed through the hallway outside. Caleb looked toward the door. He knew that one answer could end the humiliation he had been subjected to tonight, but it could also cause Marcus to immediately erase whatever evidence remained. "We need to get out of here before they realize this room has been opened." Emily held onto the file. "My daughter has been waiting for months. I sold my car, emptied my savings, and worked every overnight shift they offered me. You cannot show me your signature and then ask me to walk away as though none of this happened. You have every right to be angry, but this file has to stay exactly where it was so we can prove that we did not alter it." Caleb took Emily's phone and photographed every page, including the file number, the timestamp, and its exact position on the shelf. At the bottom corner of the disbursement sheet was a small line. "Transferred under code LSRA-20 bone." There was no medical note. There was no doctor's signature. Only a transaction code and the date the money had been transferred. Emily stared at the line. What is LSRA? Eyes are not know yet. But whoever moved Sophie's file did not want anyone asking that question. Caleb returned the papers in their original order and locked the cabinet. They had barely stepped into the hallway when Victoria appeared with 2 security employees. Her eyes immediately went to the bronze key in Caleb's hand. "You went in there?" Caleb slipped the key back inside his coat. "You should be asking why an approved medical assistance file was transferred under code LSRA-204. Victoria's expression changed for only a fraction of a second before turning cold again. "Emily Carter, you are suspended effective immediately for bringing an unauthorized person into a restricted area. Hand over your employee badge. You knew my daughter's file was in there. I do not personally manage every charity application, but I heard you and Marcus changing the list." Victoria held out her hand. "Your employee badge?" Emily looked down at the plastic card clipped to her uniform. If she handed it over, she would not merely lose the rest of tonight's shift. The staffing agency could stop scheduling her entirely, and Sophie's clinic deposit was still due. Caleb stepped forward. "If someone needs to be held responsible, put my name on the report." Victoria laughed. "You have not even proven that you are a guest. She is the one who gave you access." Matteo stood behind them but did not intervene. He looked at the archive door, then at the camera in the corner of the ceiling. When Victoria ordered him to confiscate Caleb's key, Matteo answered calmly, "We have not established that the key belongs to the hotel. So you are refusing an order?" "I am preserving an item that may be relevant to an access dispute." Victoria turned back toward Emily. "Human resources will meet with you in 10 minutes. If you want to receive the rest of your wages, do not make this more difficult." Emily removed her employee badge and placed it in Victoria's hand. She did not lower her head. Marcus was already waiting inside a small office behind the laundry area. A statement had been typed in a hurry and placed on the desk. He pushed a pen toward Emily. "You will sign that you did not see anyone altering the list and that you did not hear any conversation related to the Carter file. I will consider what happened tonight a misunderstanding." Emily read to the final line. "If I sign this, I can come back to work? Nobody needs to lose a job because of a bad memory." "What about Sophie's application?" Marcus leaned back in his chair. "The foundation receives thousands of applications. A cooperative family always has a better chance than an employee who enjoys causing trouble." Caleb stood near the door with his arms at his sides. Emily looked at him, then at the pen. She thought about their small apartment, the rent that would soon be due, and Sophie's worn shoes that the little girl kept insisting did not need to be replaced yet. One signature could preserve her only source of income. That same signature would also turn Marcus's threat into something that had supposedly never happened. Emily pushed the paper back toward him. "I will not teach my daughter that she has to lie in order to receive medical treatment." Marcus's expression darkened. This was his first chance to stop. He could have withdrawn the statement, reported the misconduct, and cooperated with the board. Instead, he picked up the phone and called the staffing company. "Terminate all access for Emily Carter," he said, keeping his eyes on her. "Add a note that she is dishonest, entered a restricted area without authorization, and created a risk for hotel guests." Emily stood frozen. A report like that could prevent her from being hired by any major hotel in the city. Marcus put down the phone. You may leave now. Caleb opened the door for Emily. As they stepped into the hallway, Marcus called after them. And Mr. Bennett, if you really are the person you are pretending to be, come back with a lawyer. Caleb stopped for 1 second but did not turn around. Outside beneath the employee entrance awning, the rain had softened. Emily held a cloth bag containing her uniform. Her eyes were red, but she did not cry. Caleb stood a respectful distance away. I'm sorry. For what? For allowing you to step into a fight without knowing who you were actually facing. Emily looked at him. Can you stop this? Maybe. But if I act too soon, Marcus will claim this is nothing more than a personal dispute. I need to prove where the money went. So you have power, but you chose to stand there while I lost my job? The question left Caleb silent. It did not feel like Victoria's insults. It was true. You should not have to pay for my delay. He took out his wallet and removed the cash he had left. Take this so you can get home. Emily refused it. My daughter needs the benefits that were already approved. She does not need pity money from a man who still refuses to tell me who he is. A bus stopped across the street. Emily opened her bag, took out a spare transit card, and placed it in Caleb's hand. The repair shop is on Route 17. You said your truck broke down. You just lost your job? That does not mean you are no longer stranded. She turned away before he could return the card. Caleb watched her run through the rain. Even after losing her livelihood, Emily was still helping someone she believed had nothing to offer her in return. The transit card in his hand suddenly felt heavier than every check the foundation had ever signed. The next morning, Emily took Sophie to the clinic. The year-old girl sat in a chair with one small arm beside the dialysis equipment, but she remained focused on coloring a picture. The drawing showed a ranch nestled between rolling hills, with a white fence and horses running beneath a blue sky. Where is that? Emily asked. Branch from the foundation symbol. Sophie handed the drawing to her mother. One day I want to visit the place where the foundation started. The nurse said they have real horses there. Emily looked at the uneven handwriting in the corner of the page. Bennett Rich. She reached into her bag and took out the bronze coin Caleb had left behind. The symbol on it matched the hills Sophie had drawn. Maybe one day we will go there. Sophie smiled. If the foundation did not choose me, that is okay. Maybe another kid needs it more. Emily had to turn her face away. Her daughter still believed she had been rejected because someone else deserved the help more. She had no idea that her application had been approved, and she certainly did not know that the money for her treatment had been taken away. A clinic financial coordinator approached and spoke quietly. Miss Carter, the deposit for the next evaluation stage must be paid within 10 days. If it is not, we will have to give the appointment to another patient. Emily looked at Sophie, who had already gone back to coloring. Please keep her appointment. I will find a way. Across the city, Caleb borrowed a landline inside Matto's security office. He dialed a number that did not appear in any public directory. When Olivia Bennett answered, he said only one sentence. The eastern door has been opened. His younger sister remained silent for 2 seconds. It was a family code used only when Bennett property or records were under threat. Where are you? Langford Grand. Bring independent auditors. A medical file was approved, then transferred under code L-204. Do not remove anything from the archive, Olivia warned. Photograph its location, preserve the chain of custody, and find a witness for every access event. I will ask the board to lock editing privileges, but Marcus cannot be notified yet. Caleb looked toward Matteo. I have a witness. Matteo placed an access log in front of him. The night before, after Victoria claimed that the hallway camera had malfunctioned, Matteo had checked the backup server, had discovered a deletion request sent from her account, but the system had preserved an automatic copy. Mr. Haller's access card entered the finance room at 12:05 at night, 3 months ago, Matteo said. That same day, 9 applications changed status. Mrs. Langford ordered me to delete the log because she called it a synchronization error. Did you delete it? No. Another call came from Henry Bennett. The elderly ranch manager had preserved the foundation's paper disbursement ledger from its earliest days. He sent Caleb photographs of every page. The paper ledger showed that 28 families had been approved for funding. Only 19 remained in the electronic system. The 9 missing names all carried the same notation. LSRA-204. Olivia called back less than an hour later. Lone Star Rural Solutions, she said. A consulting company created high years ago and registered through someone with business ties to Marcus. The foundation has transferred more than $1,000,000 to it. The board members never saw that. They previously requested that reports be sent directly to you. Marcus responded with a notice carrying a forged version of your signature, claiming that you required all communication to go through his office. Caleb closed his eyes. He had avoided the media. He had handed daily operations to Marcus, and he had trusted that the reports placed on his desk reflected the truth. His absence had become an open door for someone else to steal from families who did not have the power to enter a boardroom and demand answers. Meanwhile, Victoria sat at her computer in the event office deleting hallway footage from the main interface. She did not know that Matteo had already copied the data into an internal evidence preservation system. She also did not know that the system recorded the exact moment she used administrator privileges to destroy evidence. Marcus discovered that the old archive room had been opened with a mechanical key. He saw Sophie Carter's name in the file inspection history, then ordered employees to find the man in the dirty work coat. He has to return the BR key before the main gala tomorrow night, Marcus said. If you cannot find him, check every service entrance. Henry arrived at the hotel late that afternoon. The moment he saw the coin Emily had left on the security desk, he recognized the scratch running across the hill. This coin is only given to members of the Bennett family. How did Miss Carter get it? I gave it to her. Then she must know who you are. Not yet. First, we need to protect her from Marcus twisting the story. Henry looked at Caleb sternly. Keeping your identity secret may help you gather evidence, but every hour you wait, she pays the price for you. Caleb did not argue. Olivia entered with the auditors and placed a copy of the transaction involving Sophie on the table. The person who received Sophie's approved assistance was not a patient from a rural family. It was the daughter of a wealthy donor who met neither the foundation's geographic requirements nor its income requirements. The beneficiary change order carried Marcus's electronic signature. Caleb's phone vibrated. Emily was calling from the clinic. Her voice was tense. They will only hold Sophie's treatment appointment for another 10 days. Caleb looked at the altered transfer order. I will not make you a promise with my personal money, but I promise you that Sophie's real file will be brought into the light. Olivia had just opened her computer when her expression changed. A new transfer order was being prepared in the system. It included every dollar expected to be donated during the main gala the following night. She turned the screen toward Caleb. Marcus did not only steal Sophie's money, he is preparing to move all of tomorrow night's donations out of the foundation. And if we do not lock the transfer before midnight, there will be nothing left to return. Olivia immediately issued a legal notice temporarily freezing every transaction above the limit already approved by the board. Less than 3 minutes later, the transfer status on the screen changed from pending confirmation to held for audit. Marcus stared at the red warning across the screen, his hand tightening around the tablet. Who authorized Olivia Bennett to interfere with the system? Victoria stood near the finance office door and lowered her voice. She is the foundation's attorney. If an audit has already started, we should stop the transaction and restore the original list. There is still time to call this an administrative error. This was Marcus's second chance to stop. He could preserve the money that had not yet been transferred, admit what had happened, and allow the applications to be reviewed properly. Instead, he stared at Emily Carter's name on the incident report. If a cleaning employee is exposed as a thief, everything she says becomes worthless. What about the man with the BR key? He is either an imposter or someone sent here to test us. Either way, tonight he will be dragged in front of the board. Victoria stepped closer. What are you planning to do? Marcus locked the tablet and looked at her. I need the hotel's master key card and access to the employee areas. The logs will record it, not if security deletes them. Matteo already refused once. Marcus leaned toward her, softening his voice. When the hotel moves under a new management structure, I can nominate you for general manager. Your family used to own this place. So you not want back what should have belonged to you. Victoria looked at the Langford emblem engraved on the key card box. For years, she had behaved as though the hotel were still part of her family's private legacy, even though ownership had been transferred to Bennett Heritage Holdings. She knew that giving Marcus the MasterCard would make her a direct participant. This was her final chance to step away from the scheme. But Victoria opened the box. You have tonight. She placed the Master Access card in his hand. The main gala was scheduled to begin at 7 that evening. More than 3 guests, board members, and donors would fill the ballroom at the Langford Grand. Only a few hours before the doors opened, Victoria called Emily. We are short-staffed, she said. If you want the wages we are holding, come back and complete one final shift. Emily was sitting beside Sophie at the clinic. I was suspended. You still have your uniform and personal belongings in your locker. Finish the shift, sign the handover form, and collect your pay. If you do not, Your termination record will show that you abandoned your shift. Emily understood that it could be a trap, but those wages were enough to cover part of Sophie's deposit for the next medical evaluation. She also needed to retrieve her old phone and the copy of the file she had hidden in her employee locker. Sophie squeezed her mother's hand. "Do not go if they are going to make you sad again." Emily brushed her daughter's hair back. "I am only going to get back what belongs to us." When Emily arrived at the hotel, Victoria handed her a housekeeping cart that had already been prepared. "Clean the west hallway, the finance office, and the area behind the stage. Do not speak to the guests. Where is my pay?" After you finish the shift, Emily checked the cart out of habit. Clean towels, trash bags, glass cleaner. Nothing looked unusual. She did not know that 10 minutes earlier, Marcus had opened a hidden compartment underneath and placed inside it an envelope of donated money along with forged contracts bearing the name Lone Star Rural Solutions. As Emily pushed the cart toward the service hallway, Caleb entered through the delivery entrance. He was still wearing the old work coat and the boots that had once been covered in mud, now dry. Victoria saw him on the security camera but did not send anyone to stop him. She wanted him to appear at exactly the right moment. Caleb found Emily near the laundry area. "Why did you come back?" "They are holding my wages, and I need to get my phone. You should not be here tonight." Emily stopped the cart. "Neither should you. If Marcus is looking for that key, I need to see him make the final move. And I need to prove that I am not lying." Caleb was about to tell her to leave. Then he realized that doing so would once again mean using power he still had not revealed to make a decision for her. So he said only, "If anything happens, do not let them separate you from the witnesses." At the far end of the hallway, Matteo was monitoring access logs in real time. Victoria's key card had just opened the finance office, then the employee locker area. But the cameras show Victoria standing in the ballroom greeting guests. "Mrs. Langford's card is being used by someone else," one security employee said. Matteo immediately backed up the logs. "Do not delete any data. From this moment forward, every request to alter a record requires my signature." Inside the finance office, Marcus used the master key to open Emily's locker. He placed a copy of the donor list inside her cloth bag, then closed the locker again. As he stepped out, he saw the housekeeping cart approaching and quickly moved back in front of the tablet. Emily passed the partially open door. On the screen was the frozen transfer order. Beside it, another window was requesting confirmation of a backup account. The recipient name was clearly visible, Lone Star Rural Solutions. Emily pulled her phone from her uniform pocket and took a picture of the screen. A small click sounded. Victoria appeared behind her and snatched the phone from her hand. "You are stealing financial data. Give me my phone back." "You have no right to photograph anything in here." Marcus stepped forward and locked the screen. "Do not worry. We will find out what else she has taken." A chime sounded from the ballroom, announcing that the charity auction was about to begin. Marcus adjusted his tie and signaled Victoria. "Take her outside. Bring the cart too." Emily tried to keep hold of the handle, but high-event employees pushed the housekeeping cart toward the ballroom. Caleb saw what was happening and followed. Matteo and the security team appeared from the opposite hallway. When the main doors opened, hundreds of faces turned toward them. Marcus stepped onto the stage wearing an expression of carefully calculated distress. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have just discovered a serious incident. Donated funds and confidential donor documents have been stolen." The ballroom erupted in murmurs. Emily stood in the middle of the polished stone floor in her housekeeping uniform. Victoria placed Emily's phone on a table in front of the stage. "This employee was suspended for bringing an uninvited man into a restricted area," Marcus continued. "Tonight, she returned and was caught photographing financial data." Emily looked around at the same faces that had laughed at Caleb the night before. Now they were looking at her as though she were a criminal. Marcus pointed toward the housekeeping cart. "Search it." Matteo did not move. "Before any search, we need to document the scene and identify everyone who had access to that cart." Victoria snapped at him. "You are obstructing an internal investigation. I am preserving evidence." Marcus turned toward two other employees. "Open the compartment." One of them pulled open the hidden drawer underneath. An envelope of donated money fell onto the floor along with several contracts. The whispers immediately grew louder. "Those are not mine," Emily said. "The card was already prepared before they gave it to me." Victoria opened the cloth bag taken from Emily's locker. Inside was the donor list. "Then how do you explain this?" "I have not been inside my locker since I arrived." The man who had kicked the bucket of dirty water the night before left. She and that homeless man are obviously working together. Marcus pointed toward Caleb. Miss Carter deliberately brought this man into the hotel so they could gain access to the archive. Then they stole documents in an attempt to blackmail the foundation. Two security employees moved toward Caleb. Mateo immediately raised a hand to stop them. No one uses force. There are no police here, no written incident report, and the key card data has not been verified. Marcus stepped down from the stage. You are fired if you refuse my order. Mateo removed his radio and placed it on the table. But he still stood between Caleb and the security employees. You do not have the authority to order security to destroy procedure. Emily looked at Caleb, her voice breaking. I am sorry. If I had not defended you at the entrance that night, they could not say you were connected to me. Caleb shook his head. No, I am the one who is responsible for letting you face this for too long. Emily stared at him, wanting to ask what he meant. But Marcus had already returned to the stage. Miss Carter used her daughter's illness to pressure this charity. When her application was denied, she decided to retaliate. The large screen behind him displayed a letter bearing Sophie Carter's name. It stated that the family was not eligible for assistance. Emily stared at the forged rejection letter in front of hundreds of people. Pain showed clearly on her face, but she did not beg. If you claim this foundation is fair, she said, then publish the list of people who actually received the money. Show everyone who received Sophie's approved assistance. Marcus tightened his grip on the remote. You do not have the right to question this foundation. A mother whose child had her medical treatment taken away has the right to ask where the money went. Several guests stopped whispering. A doctor on the board looked up at the letter and noticed that the medical review code did not match the proper format. Marcus saw doubt beginning to spread. Hare gave an order. Remove Caleb from the stage area. Take Emily to the security room until the police arrive. Victoria pointed toward a side door. The two guards looked toward Matteo, unsure whose instructions to follow. At that exact moment, the main ballroom doors swung open. Olivia Bennett entered with Henry, new independent auditors, 3 board members, and the foundation's legal representative. Hotel employees quickly moved aside. Henry carried an old leather disbursement ledger. Olivia held a sealed case file. Marcus tried to maintain his composure. This board meeting was not authorized to take place here. Olivia replied, This is not a board meeting. This is a formal evidence preservation action following indications of embezzlement and a staged crime scene. Victoria stepped backward toward the table. Matteo took Emily's phone from her hand, placed it inside an evidence bag, and opened the key card locks on his tablet. Caleb walked past the bills scattered across the floor. Hare removed the bronze key from around his neck and placed it on the table in front of Marcus. The letters Bira reflected beneath the crystal lights. Marcus looked at the key. The confidence disappeared from his face. That proves nothing. Olivia connected her computer to the large screen. Then let the documents prove it. The forged rejection letter disappeared. In its place appeared the ownership certificate for Bennett Heritage Holdings, the board resolution, and the property records for the Langford Grant. Caleb Bennett's name appeared as the controlling owner. The entire ballroom fell silent. Henry stepped forward and stood beside Caleb. Victoria looked at the man she had once called poor, then at the Bennett rich symbol on the stage. At last, she understood why his key could open a room that no one in management had been authorized to enter. Caleb looked directly at Marcus and Victoria. I did not sneak into this gala. This is my gala. And the only woman here who treated me like a human being is the one you just called a liar. The entire ballroom remained silent after Caleb's declaration. The people who had laughed at his muddy boots now avoided his eyes. But Caleb did not look at them and demand an apology. He turned toward Olivia. Do not ask them to believe me just because my name appears on the ownership documents. Show them the evidence. Olivia nodded. One by one, the large screen displayed the registration documents for Bennett Heritage Holdings, its controlling ownership of the Langford Grant, the resolution establishing the Rural Hope Foundation, and the original list of board members. Caleb Bennett's name appeared as the founder and principal benefactor. Marcus tried to regain control of the room. Caleb is reacting emotionally because he was treated improperly at the entrance. A front desk incident does not prove financial fraud. Caleb looked at him. You are right about one thing. I was insulted. But we are not going to judge anyone based on my emotions. Every decision made tonight will be based on evidence. Olivia opened the sealed case file. Henry placed the old leather disbursement ledger on the table in front of the stage. The pages had yellowed with age, but every payment included an approval date, the family's name, the medical purpose, and a confirming signature. The original ledger shows that 28 families were approved for assistance, Henry said. The electronic report controlled by Mr. Hull's office contains only 19. Olivia displayed the two lists side by side. All 9 missing names carried the same code, Earl Ezra-204. Earl Ezra stands for Lone Star Rural Solutions, she said. A shell company that received more than $1 million from the foundation. It has no active office, no professional staff, and provides neither medical services nor agricultural assistance. Marcus folded his arms. The foundation uses many consulting firms. I do not personally inspect every contractor. But you personally approve this one. The screen displayed transfer orders bearing Marcus's electronic signature. Olivia enlarged the receiving account information and the device authentication records. These transactions were approved from your tablet using your personal security code. Tonight's transfer order was also created from that same device. Murmurs spread across the tables. Marcus turned toward Victoria. She controls the hotel systems. Mrs. Langford could have used my access. Victoria immediately objected. You asked me for the master key. I had nothing to do with changing foundation records. Olivia did not argue. She signaled to Matteo. He stepped forward and connected the security tablet to the large screen. Hallway footage appeared. Victoria stood outside the finance office, opened the keycard box, and handed the master access card to Marcus. The timestamp matched the moment Emily's employee locker had been opened. Victoria went pale. That camera was malfunctioning, Matteo answered. You ordered me to delete the footage and called it a technical error. I refused and preserved a copy on the backup server. The next video showed Marcus entering the employee locker area. Another camera recorded him bending over the housekeeping cart before it was given to Emily. He opened the hidden compartment, placed the envelope and the contracts inside, then closed it. The people who had accused Emily now looked at the envelope lying on the floor very differently. Matteo continued. Mrs. Langford also ordered me to remove Mr. Bennett by force before his invitation had been verified, then told me to erase the key card history. I refused both requests. Marcus stepped back. You are testifying to save your job? I may lose my job for telling the truth, Matteo replied. But I will not keep it by turning an innocent person into a criminal. Olivia removed Emily's phone from the evidence bag. The photograph of the transfer order was still on the device. Automatic backup data confirmed that the image had been created outside the finance office only seconds before Victoria took the phone away. Emily stood in the middle of the ballroom with her hands cold and trembling. She had once feared that one small photograph would never be enough against people with titles, money, and control over the system. But now that photograph connected directly to the keycard logs, the backup camera footage, and Henry's paper ledger. Caleb looked at her. Would you like to tell them what you saw? Emily stepped forward. I saw Marcus and Victoria changing the list. I heard them say the Carter file should be marked ineligible because the money had already been given to someone else. When I refused to sign a statement saying I had heard nothing, he terminated my work and told the staffing agency that I was dishonest. Marcus pointed at her. That is still only the word of a disgruntled employee. Olivia opened a set of emails recovered by the auditors. Let us use your own words. The emails appeared on the screen. Marcus had personally ordered 9 approved recipients, replaced with names recommended by donors. In one message to Victoria, he wrote that poor families have no lawyers, no connections, and will disappear from the list without making a sound. Several donors lowered their heads. The doctor serving on the board stood. I want to see Sophie Carter's file. Olivia opened the sealed folder. The medical evaluation confirmed that Sophie qualified for the long-term treatment and evaluation program. Beneath it was Caleb's approval signature from months earlier. Caleb said, I approved this application after the medical board cleared it. Olivia moved to the next page. Marcus changed the status, created a false rejection letter, and transferred the money to someone who was not part of a rural family, did not meet the income requirements, and had ties to a wealthy donor. The man who had kicked the bucket of dirty water the night before silently looked down at his polished shoes. Emily covered her mouth with one hand. For months, she had believed Sophie had been rejected because other children needed the help more. The truth was much crueler. Her daughter's treatment had already been approved, then taken away by someone with the power to redirect it. My daughter was never rejected, she whispered. Never, Olivia confirmed. Victoria tried to move toward the door, but high legal representatives blocked her path without using force. I was only protecting the hotel's reputation, she said. Marcus told me everything was legitimate. Olivia displayed the bank records for Lone Star Rural Solutions. You received a commission from this company after every foundation event. The money was transferred into an account in your name. Victoria looked at Marcus. You told me nobody would ever investigate. Marcus immediately replied, you accepted the money yourself. I did not force you. Caleb looked at both of them. You had many chances to stop. Instead, you chose to threaten a mother, steal a child's right to medical treatment, and plant evidence to destroy the person who told the truth. He turned toward the board. I am requesting the immediate suspension of Marcus Hill from every position, the termination of his financial access, and the transfer of all records to the appropriate authorities for investigation into charitable fraud, embezzlement, and fabrication of evidence. The board members voted one by one. The motion passed immediately. Victoria's management contract was also terminated. Her access card was revoked, and she was placed under investigation for possible financial complicity, workplace retaliation, and destruction of data. No one declared either of them legally guilty, but all evidence was sealed for transfer to the appropriate authorities. Olivia received a call from the supervising bank. She switched it to speakerphone. The transfer has been blocked. Accounts connected to Lone Star Rural Solutions are being frozen under the emergency order. Most of the money can still be recovered. A wave of relief moved through the ballroom. Caleb refused to let the evening end with the removal of only 2 people. He ordered human resources to protect the wages and benefits of every uninvolved employee. No one was to use the crisis as an excuse for mass layoffs. Then he turned toward Emily. You have been cleared. The false report sent to the staffing agency will be withdrawn, and every dollar of withheld wages must be paid in full. I am also asking the Langford grant to restore your job. Emily looked down at the uniform she was wearing. I do not want to return to a position where one manager can fire me just because I defended someone who was being treated like he did not matter. Caleb did not try to persuade her. You have every right to refuse, and you are right. He turned toward the entire ballroom. I owe Emily, Matteo, and every employee who was ever forced into silence an apology. He gave too much power to one person and assumed that polished reports meant the system was working. My absence created space for injustice. Having my name listed as the founder does not excuse me from responsibility. An employee brought over a personal check Caleb had just signed. He intended to give it to Emily so Sophie's medical expenses could be covered immediately, but she refused it. My daughter needs the benefits that were already approved, Emily said. Not charity, because her mother happened to help a rich man. Caleb lowered his hand. You are right. Sophie's application will be restored under the foundation's rules, not through a private gift from me. The independent medical board was called into session the following morning. Sophie's application and those of the other AD families were restored for proper review. Every family that met the requirements had its assistance reinstated using the frozen funds without depending on the decision of any single person or donor. Over the following weeks, Caleb established the Rural Family Oversight Council. It included representatives of recipient families, hotel employees, independent physicians, auditors, and elected community members. Every disbursement decision had to be cross-checked. Employees were also given a confidential reporting channel that did not pass through executive management. Emily was invited to apply for a position representing working families. Caleb removed himself from the selection committee to avoid a conflict of interest. She was not chosen because she had defended him. She was chosen because she understood the application process, recognized irregularities, and spoke up when remaining silent would have been safer for her personally. Matteo was promoted to Director of Security Training. His first program emphasized that clothing, occupation, and ability to pay were never legitimate reasons to use force against someone or deny that person dignity. Henry established an independent archive system and trained a successor as he prepared for retirement. Olivia became chair of the audit committee and reported directly to the board rather than to the executive director. 6 months later, Sophie visited Bennett Ridge after her health had become more stable. The moment she stepped out of the car, she recognized the line of hills from the bronze coin and the picture she had once drawn. Mom, this is where the foundation started. Emily took her daughter's hand and walked with her through the gate. Caleb was waiting near the horse barn. He was not wearing a suit, only a denim shirt and his old boots. But this time, nobody looked at those boots as a sign of poverty. A community meal was held beneath the roof of the large barn. There was no VIP table. Donors, farmers, doctors, hotel employees, and recipient families all sat beside one another. Sophie placed her drawing on the table in front of Caleb. You keep it. So you remember that everyone in the picture is allowed inside. Caleb accepted it with both hands. I will remember. Emily and Caleb looked at each other. A deep respect had grown between them, but neither of them turned gratitude into an emotional debt. Emily had an independent position, and Caleb did not directly supervise her. Whatever might someday develop between them could only begin after justice had been restored and both of them could stand beside each other as equals. At the Langford Grand, the BR key was placed inside a glass case near the entrance. Beneath it was a new rule. Everyone who walks through this door must be treated with the same dignity. One afternoon at the ranch, Sophie asked Caleb, "So who really owns the party?" Caleb looked around at the farmers, employees, and families sitting together at the same table. The real owner is not the person whose name is on the building. The real owners are the people who refuse to let anyone be pushed outside just because they look poor. Because kindness only has real meaning when we give it to someone we believe can offer us nothing in return. And justice does not end when the people who abuse their power lose it. Justice is only complete when victims receive back what was taken from them. Truth-tellers are protected, and the doors that were once closed by prejudice are opened equally to everyone.